Imagine kicking back by the pool your late father built with his own hands. The same one where he taught you to swim as a kid. When the neighborhood HOA president marches straight into your backyard uninvited and declares it an illegal eyesore that has to be bulldozed immediately. That's exactly how my war with Karen Whitaker started, and trust me, the way it ended left the whole suburb buzzing with the sweetest kind of justice. I'm Ethan Caldwell. Just a regular guy in Willow Creek Estates. A cookie-cutter suburban slice of California where everyone smiles over white picket fences but quietly chokes on the rules. My house has been in the family since the 80s. Dad poured that concrete pool himself back in 1985, no fancy contractors. Just sweat, cheap beer, and a dream of giving his kids something permanent. Every summer we'd cannonball in after Little League. Later, I taught my own son, Liam, to swim there while my wife watched from a lounge chair, laughing until the day cancer took her 3 years ago. That pool isn't just water and tile. It's the last real piece of my dad and my marriage I can still touch. So when Karen showed up that Saturday afternoon, power walking across my grass in her pastel polo and khakis like she owned the deed, I already knew trouble was coming. She stopped at the edge of the deck, clipboard in hand, lips pressed into that fake polite line, HOA people perfect. "Ethan," she said, voice syrupy sweet but eyes like ice picks, "I'm afraid your pool violates our updated community standards. The new Aesthetic Harmony Ordinance passed last quarter. It's oversized for the lot footprint. And the original permit as well. Outdated. You'll need to remove it within 60 days. I sat up slowly, water dripping off my shoulders, and just stared at her. The sun was beating down. Kids were laughing 2 houses over. And this woman was telling me to erase my father's legacy like it was a ugly lawn gnome. "Karen," I said, keeping my tone even, "that pool's been here 40 years. Nobody complained until now. It's not hurting anyone." She tilted her head, giving me the smile you give a toddler who just spilled juice. "Oh, Ethan, it's not personal. We're all about preserving property values and neighborhood cohesion. Think of the children. What if someone slips? Or the water usage during our drought restrictions. Rules are rules. Dear. Compliance is mandatory." I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just nodded once and said, "I'll look into it." Inside, something cold and patient clicked into place. I'd seen her type before, the kind who weaponizes for the greater good while her own backyard looked like a Pinterest board exploded. But I smiled, waved, and let her walk away thinking she'd won round 1. That was the last peaceful afternoon I had for months. The letters started arriving like clockwork. First a polite reminder. Then a $250 fine. Then $500. By month 3 they were hitting me with notices for visual pollution, non-conforming water feature, and my personal favorite, encouraging unsanctioned recreational congregation. Karen's signature was on every single one. Always followed by that little heart over the eye like she was signing yearbook messages. Neighbors who used to wave when I mowed the lawn suddenly found reasons to look at their phones when I walked by. At the community mailbox I overheard whispers, "He's the one fighting the HOA, so selfish, probably throwing wild parties back there, no wonder his wife." The rumors got creative. Someone claimed I was running an illegal Airbnb for pool parties. Another said I was wasting water while families down the street had brown lawns. None of it was true. But truth never mattered once Karen got the narrative rolling. Liam started coming home from school quieter. "Dad, why does Mrs. Whitaker's kid keep saying you're a bad neighbor?" The stress showed in my bank account too, lawyer consults. Extra hours at my accounting firm just to stay ahead of the fines. Nights I'd sit by the pool after Liam went to bed, staring at the water reflecting the stars. feeling my dad's ghost beside me saying, "Don't you dare let them take this, son." But I didn't explode. I watched. I listened. And I started documenting everything. I bought a little voice recorder and kept my phone ready. Every time Karen dropped by to check compliance, I had it running. When she cornered me at the mailbox and hissed, "You're making this harder than it needs to be, Ethan." "Good neighbors don't cause problems," I smiled and said. "Just trying to understand the rules." Karen. Click. Saved. Then I started knocking on doors. Quietly. Dave next door admitted she'd fined him $800 for a bird feeder that was 2 inches too tall. Susan across the street got cited for hanging Christmas lights one day past January 15th. Old Mr. Patel had to remove his American flag because the pole was non-approved material. Everyone had a story. But nobody wanted to speak up first. They were scared. Karen had been on the board for 12 years. She knew every loophole. Every neighbor's weak spot. "People move here for the standards," Dave told me over a beer in his garage. "But it's a cage with nice landscaping." The more stories I collected, the clearer it became, this wasn't about my pool. It was about control. Karen's husband had left her a few years back. And the HOA had become her whole identity. She needed to win this because losing meant the mask slipped, the one that said she was the virtuous guardian of suburban perfection instead of a lonely control freak terrified of irrelevance. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Rebecca who specialized in HOA nightmares, took one look at my folder and laughed. They're retroactively applying rules to a pool built before half these houses existed. Classic overreach. We've got them on selective enforcement, estoppel, and probably harassment. But we play it smart. We played it very smart. The community meeting was where the first crack appeared. The rec center was packed, folding chairs squeaking, fluorescent lights buzzing. That faint smell of burnt coffee. Karen stood at the front in her navy blazer, smiling like a game show host. When public comments opened, I walked up to the mic carrying a thick binder. "Evening, everyone," I said calmly. "I just want to talk about consistent application of the rules." I laid out the timeline. The retroactive ordinance. The mounting fines. Then I played the first recording, Karen's voice. Crystal clear, frankly. "Ethan, some people just don't belong in a community like ours." The room went dead silent. Karen's smile froze. A few people shifted uncomfortably. I kept going. I also noticed something interesting. I pulled out photos. "Karen, your backyard fountain, the one with the cherub spitting water, is 2 feet taller than the maximum allowed under the exact same aesthetic code you're citing for my pool. And your flagpole? Brushed nickel. Also non-compliant. Funny how the rules only seem to apply to certain yards." Her face went from polite pink to nuclear red in about 3 seconds. "That is completely different," she sputtered, voice climbing an octave. "I might serve on the board. I have discretionary authority." A nervous laugh rippled through the crowd. Someone in the back actually said, "Oh shit," loud enough for the mic to catch. Karen tried to recover, waving her hands. "This is a personal vendetta. He's attacking me because he refuses to follow simple guidelines designed to protect all of us." But the damage was done. People who'd been silent for years started murmuring. Dave stood up. Then Susan. Then Mr. Patel. The binder got passed around. By the end of the night, 3 other families had come forward with their own documentation. Karen stormed out before the meeting even adjourned, her heels clicking like angry gunshots. The lawsuit came next. The HOA sued to force removal of the pool. claiming it was a safety hazard and devaluing adjacent properties. They brought an expert who testified that the coping stones could cause someone to stub a toe. Karen sat at their table looking smug again, convinced the courtroom would be her stage. Rebecca dismantled them piece by piece. She showed the original 1985 permit. She presented water usage data proving my pool was more efficient than half the neighborhood's. She played more recordings, including one where Karen told another resident, "Sometimes you have to break a few eggs to keep the neighborhood beautiful," right after finding them for a vegetable garden. Then came Karen's star evidence, photos supposedly showing cracks in my pool deck that posed an imminent danger. Rebecca zoomed in on the metadata. The photos were taken 6 months earlier, before any alleged cracks existed, and one had clearly been edited. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, actually raised an eyebrow. "Miss Whitaker," she said dryly, "are you suggesting these images are authentic?" Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Her hands started shaking. For the first time, that ironclad confidence cracked. You could see the panic bloom across her face, the realization that the rules she'd worshipped were about to eat her alive. The judge ruled in my favor 2 weeks later. Not only did I get to keep the pool, the HOA was ordered to pay my legal fees and cease all retroactive enforcement actions. The courtroom was quiet for a second. Then a few people actually clapped. Karen didn't clap. She sat there staring at the table like someone had just told her the world was flat. The real collapse happened at the next board election. Petitions circulated. Residents who'd been too afraid to speak showed up in force. Karen lost her seat in a landslide, 87% voted her out. The new board immediately started rewriting the ridiculous ordinances. Bird feeders got a pardon. Flagpoles were legalized. And my pool? Officially grandfathered in with a nice plaque that basically said, "Don't be like Karen. She still lives in the neighborhood." Of course. But the power walks are slower now. The pastel polos have been replaced by oversized sunglasses and a permanent scowl. Neighbors who once feared her now wave with exaggerated cheer. "Morning, Karen. Beautiful day to mind your own business, isn't it? Last weekend I was out by the pool with Liam, teaching him a new dive. The sun was warm. The water sparkled. And for the first time in a year I didn't feel that knot in my chest. Dad would have loved this ending. Here's the thing, though. I didn't set out to destroy Karen. I just refused to let her destroy what mattered to me. And in the process, a whole neighborhood remembered they had spines. So tell me, was I the villain for fighting to keep my family's memories? Or was Karen the real problem for thinking her clipboard gave her the right to rewrite other people's lives? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who is really in the wrong here?